Hello, my dear witches and wizards. It's James. Welcome back to another cozy evening together, where we settle in and let the magic of the wizarding world wash over us like a warm blanket. Tonight, we're diving deep into something I've always found absolutely fascinating: the intricate, sometimes mysterious, often beautiful world of wands and spell casting. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wands, really? But trust me, there's so much more to these seemingly simple wooden sticks than you might imagine. They're not just props or tools, they're almost alive in their own way, with personalities and preferences and histories that go back centuries. So, grab your favorite wand, or just imagine you're holding one. Get comfortable under those covers, and let's explore the deep magic together. You know, when I first read the Harry Potter series as a kid, I'll admit I didn't pay too much attention to the wands. They were just there, right? Harry had his, Hermione had hers, Ron kept breaking his poor thing. But as I got older and started reading more carefully, diving into the details and the lore, I realized that J.K. Rowling had created this entire philosophy around wands, this whole system of how they work and why they matter. And honestly, it's one of the most thoughtful and creative aspects of the entire magical world. The idea that the wand chooses the wizard, not the other way around. It's such a beautiful inversion of what you'd expect. We're used to stories where the hero picks up a sword or finds a magical artifact, but in the wizarding world, you don't get that choice. The wand makes it for you. Let's start at the very beginning, with that iconic moment in the first book when Harry walks into Ollivander's shop for the first time. Remember how nervous he was? Hagrid had just told him he was a wizard. His whole world had been turned upside down. And now he's in this dusty, narrow shop filled with thousands of wand boxes stacked to the ceiling. And Mr. Ollivander, with those pale, silvery eyes that seem to see right through you, he starts pulling down boxes and having Harry try wand after wand after wand. Each time, something goes wrong. A vase shatters, or nothing happens at all, or there's some other small disaster. It's almost comical, really, watching poor Harry get more and more flustered. But then, finally, Ollivander brings out that one particular wand, 11 inches, holly and phoenix feather, and the moment Harry touches it, he feels warmth spreading through his fingers. Red and gold sparks shoot from the tip like little fireworks. And Ollivander says those famous words, curious, very curious. That selection process, it's not random. It's not even really about compatibility in the way we might think of it, like finding a good pair of shoes. It's something deeper, almost mystical. The wand is responding to something in Harry's magical core, his potential, his character, his destiny, even. And what I love about this is that it suggests wands have their own form of sentience, their own way of knowing what they need. They're not making logical decisions. Obviously, they're wood and core material held together by magic. But they recognize something. They feel it. The holly wand with the phoenix feather core recognized Harry Potter before Harry really knew himself. And this brings us to one of the most important aspects of wand lore, the cores. Now, in Britain at least, according to Ollivander, there are 3 supreme core types: phoenix feather, dragon heartstring, and unicorn hair. Each one has different properties, different strengths and weaknesses, different personalities, if you will. Phoenix feather cores, these are the rarest of the 3. Phoenixes don't exactly grow on trees, after all, and convincing one to donate a feather for wand making, well, that's a feat in itself. Wands with phoenix feather cores are capable of the greatest range of magic. They're the most versatile, the most powerful, but they're also the most picky about their wizards. They have the pickiest personalities. They're choosy, and once they've bonded with a wizard, they're incredibly loyal, though they also have a tendency to act independently sometimes, to show their own initiative. Harry's wand, with Fawkes's feather, it saved him more than once by acting on its own, recognizing Voldemort and responding without Harry consciously directing it. Dragon heartstring cores, these are the powerhouses. They produce wands that learn spells quickly, that cast with particular force and flair. If you want raw magical power, this is the core you're looking for. But there's a trade-off, and there always is with these things. Dragon heartstring wands are temperamental. They're more likely to turn to the dark arts than the other core types, not because they're evil or anything, but because they're drawn to powerful magic regardless of its nature. They're also the easiest cores to turn, meaning they'll more readily switch allegiance to a new master if they're won in combat. Hermione's wand, made of vine wood with a dragon heartstring core, it suited her perfectly because she had the knowledge and control to manage that temperamental power. And then there's unicorn hair, the most faithful core, but also the least powerful, relatively speaking. Now that doesn't mean unicorn hair wands are weak, not at all. They're just more consistent, more steady. They don't produce the flashiest magic. They bond deeply with their first owner and are incredibly difficult to turn to dark magic. If you're looking for a loyal companion, a wand that will never betray you, unicorn hair is your answer. Ron's first proper wand, the one he got in his 3rd year after his hand-me-down from Charlie finally bit the dust, that was unicorn hair. 14 inches, willow and unicorn hair, and it served him faithfully for years. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something I only learned about later on. Those 3 cores, they're not the only ones, they're just the ones Ollivander prefers, the ones he considers supreme. There are other wand makers, particularly in different parts of the world, who use different materials. Thestral tail hair, for instance, which only those who've seen death can see being harvested. Vela hair, though Ollivander himself considers it too temperamental and produces wands that are, in his words, too moody. There are supposedly wands with kelpie mane, or even more exotic materials from magical creatures most of us have never heard of. The point is, wand making isn't some standardized factory production line. It's an art, a craft that varies from maker to maker, region to region. And speaking of different approaches, let's talk about Grigorovich for a moment. He was the European wand maker, based somewhere in Eastern Europe, possibly Bulgaria or that region. He had a different philosophy than Ollivander. Where Ollivander believed in the wand choosing the wizard, Grigorovich seemed to put more emphasis on the wand maker's skill in matching wand to wizard. He was more, hands-on in his approach, less mystical, maybe more practical. He's the one who made Victor Crumb's wand, 10 1/4 inches, hornbeam and dragon heartstring, thicker than usual and rigid. It suited Crumb's build and his style of magic perfectly, powerful and direct. The wood of the wand. Oh, now that's another whole layer of complexity. You see, different woods have different properties, different meanings, different affinities, and this isn't just wizarding superstition. The wood genuinely affects how the wand performs and what kind of wizard it's drawn to. Harry's wand was made of holly, which is associated with protection and fighting against evil. It's considered a particularly rare wand wood, and those who possess holly wands often face dangerous spiritual quests or mortal danger. Which, that certainly describes Harry's life, doesn't it? From the moment he found out he was a wizard, he was marked for death, facing down the darkest wizard of the age. Holly was the perfect wood for him. Voldemort's wand, in contrast, was made of yew. Now, yew is fascinating because it's associated with death, but also with resurrection and immortality. Yew trees can live for thousands of years, and they're often planted in graveyards. The symbolism there is almost too perfect for someone obsessed with conquering death, someone who literally tore his soul apart to achieve immortality. Yew wands are rare and powerful, and they're drawn to wizards who are, shall we say, unusual in their outlook or destiny. They're not necessarily dark, but they're often possessed by those walking uncommon paths. Hermione's wand was vine wood, another interesting choice. Vine is a wood that seeks wizards with hidden depths, with greater purposes, with a vision beyond the ordinary. It's for witches and wizards who surprise, who are more than they seem on the surface. And that's Hermione to a T, isn't it? On the surface, she's the studious girl with her nose always in a book, but beneath that, she's brave, she's resourceful, she's willing to break rules when necessary. She's literally one of the most powerful witches of her generation, despite being Muggle-born. The Elder Wand, now that's made of elder wood, which is one of the rarest and most unlucky of wand woods, or so the superstition goes. Elder wands are said to be deeply drawn to those marked for a special, often dangerous destiny. The superstition says that those who carry elder wands will be defenseless against powerful magic, but the reality is more nuanced. Elder wands are simply incredibly powerful, and they attract attention. They make their wielder a target, which, considering the Elder Wand's history of passing from owner to owner through murder and theft, makes perfect sense. There are so many other woods too. Ash, which is stubborn and doesn't take well to new masters. Hawthorn, which is good for healing magic, but also curses, a duality that reflects the tree's association with both life and death in Celtic tradition. Rowan, which is protective against dark magic and charms. Cedar, which is drawn to those with strength of character and unusual loyalty. Every wood tells a story, reveals something about the wizard who wields it. Now, the length and flexibility of a wand, these are often overlooked details, but they matter too. Generally speaking, longer wands are drawn to wizards with bigger personalities, more dramatic spellcasting styles, or sometimes just physically taller people. Shorter wands tend to choose those who are more refined in their magic, more precise. But it's not a hard rule, more of a tendency. Ron's 14-inch willow wand suited his height and his rather sweeping spellcasting style. Umbridge's wand was unusually short, which, says something about her cramped, restricted, controlling personality, doesn't it? Flexibility is trickier to pin down. Ollivander uses terms like reasonably supple, quite flexible, surprisingly swishy, unyielding, brittle, and so on. These seem to correspond to the wizard's adaptability, their willingness to change, or their rigidity. An unyielding wand might choose a wizard who is set in their ways, stubborn, determined. A flexible wand might go to someone more adaptable, more willing to go with the flow. But again, it's subtle. It's not like you can predict someone's entire personality from their wand's flexibility rating. It's more like another piece of the puzzle, another small insight into who they are. You know what's heartbreaking? When a wizard loses their wand, or when it breaks. The emotional devastation is real, and it's something I think the movies didn't quite capture the way the books did. When Harry's holly wand snapped during the escape from Bathilda Bagshot's house in Godric's Hollow, broken by Hermione's blasting curse that ricocheted off Nagini, that wand had been with him since the beginning. It had faced Voldemort multiple times. It had produced the Patronus that saved Sirius. It had connected with Voldemort's wand in the graveyard and shown him his parents' echoes. It was more than a tool. It was a friend, a companion, a part of his identity as a wizard. And when it broke, he felt like he'd lost a piece of himself. The thing is, wands can't really be repaired, not properly. Magic can't fix everything. And broken wands are one of those things that are, for all intents and purposes, permanent losses. Oh, you can try to stick them back together, like Ron did with his wand in second year after the Whomping Willow incident, but it'll never work right again. Ron's wand backfired constantly that whole year. It vomited slugs back at him instead of cursing Malfoy. It exploded when Lockhart tried to use it to obliviate Harry and Ron. It was a disaster. A broken wand is a liability, not an asset. The only exception, the only wand that can repair other wands, is the Elder Wand. Its power is so immense, so beyond normal wand lore, that it can do what should be impossible. Harry used it to repair his Holly Wand before returning the Elder Wand to Dumbledore's tomb, and that's one of my favorite moments in the entire series, actually. It shows Harry's priorities, that what he wanted most wasn't power, wasn't the unbeatable wand, but the restoration of the wand that had chosen him, his faithful companion. This brings us naturally to the whole concept of wand allegiance and ownership, which is complicated and honestly kind of fascinating. Wands have loyalty, but it's not simple loyalty. They're not like dogs who love their owner unconditionally forever. They're more pragmatic, more survival-oriented perhaps. A wand wants to be with a powerful wizard, someone who can use it well, someone worthy of its capabilities. So, if a wand's owner is defeated, truly defeated in a way that shows they're no longer the stronger wizard, the wand's allegiance can shift. This is how wand ownership passes. Now, there are different ways this can happen, and the method matters. The most straightforward is through disarming. If you use Expelliarmus on someone and successfully take their wand from them, you can win that wand's allegiance. Not always, mind you, but you can. It depends on the circumstances, the intent, the nature of the confrontation. Harry won Draco's Hawthorn wand this way, by physically wresting it from him at Malfoy Manor. That act of overpowering Draco, even though it was physical rather than magical, was enough to transfer the wand's loyalty. And here's the kicker. Draco had previously disarmed Dumbledore on the Astronomy Tower, which meant Draco had won the allegiance of the Elder Wand without even knowing it. So when Harry defeated Draco, Harry became the true master of the Elder Wand, even though Voldemort was the one who stole it from Dumbledore's tomb. Voldemort never won the wand's allegiance because he never defeated its true master. That whole chain of ownership, it's beautiful in its complexity, and it's the reason Harry survived the final confrontation. Killing the previous owner can also transfer ownership, but it's not guaranteed, and it's messier. Wands don't necessarily respect murder the way they respect defeat in combat. This is part of why Voldemort's understanding of wand lore was fatally flawed. He assumed that killing was the ultimate act of domination, the surest way to win a wand's loyalty. But that's not how wands think. They're not impressed by murder for its own sake. They respond to skill, to power, to the demonstration of superiority in magical ability. A cowardly murder from behind doesn't prove you're the better wizard. A duel, a confrontation, an act of overpowering someone face to face, that's what matters to a wand. Some wands are more loyal than others, of course. Remember how I mentioned unicorn hair wands bond deeply with their first master? They're much harder to win over. Even if you defeat their owner, a unicorn hair wand might never fully accept you, might always be a bit resistant, a bit less effective in your hand. Phoenix feather wands, they're picky, but also independent, so they might switch allegiance if they respect your power, but they might also decide they don't like you, even if you won them fairly. Dragon heartstring wands are the easiest to turn. They respect strength above all else, so if you prove yourself stronger than their previous master, they'll work for you readily enough. There's this interesting case with Ron's wand situation that illustrates a lot of this. His first wand, the one he inherited from Charlie, it was never really his. It tolerated him, sure, but it had already bonded with Charlie. When it broke in second year, honestly, it was probably a blessing in disguise, because it meant Ron could finally get a wand that actually chose him. His second wand, the Willow and Unicorn Hair 1, that was truly his from the start, and you can see the difference in his spell work after he got it. He was more confident, more capable, because he had a wand that was on his side. And poor Neville, Neville had a similar problem. He was using his father's wand throughout his first 5 years at Hogwarts, a wand that had never chosen him, a wand that was loyal to Frank Longbottom and probably still waiting for him in some sense. It's no wonder Neville seemed clumsy and weak at magic for so long. He wasn't weak, he was trying to do magic with a wand that wasn't his, with a wand that didn't respect him or respond to him properly. When his father's wand broke during the battle at the Department of Mysteries, Neville got his own wand, and suddenly he blossomed. By the time the Battle of Hogwarts rolled around, Neville was dueling Death Eaters and pulling the sword of Gryffindor out of the sorting hat and beheading Nagini. The wand makes a difference. Let's talk about the people who make these incredible objects, because wand making is an art that very few wizards can master. Garrick Ollivander, his family has been making wands since 382 BC, which is just an incomprehensible span of time. Generation after generation of Ollivanders, each one learning the craft from their predecessor, each one adding to the family knowledge. Ollivander himself, the one who sold Harry his wand. He's a bit odd, isn't he? Those pale eyes, that way he has of remembering every single wand he's ever sold, that slightly unsettling intensity. But he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant at what he does. He understands wands in a way few others can. He knows them intimately, their personalities, their preferences, their potential. His shop on Diagon Alley, it's been there since 382 BC, in the same spot, serving British wizards for over 2 millennia. The shop itself is narrow and shabby looking from the outside, but inside, it's packed with thousands upon thousands of wand boxes, each one containing a unique creation. Ollivander remembers them all, every wand, every customer. When Harry came in, Ollivander knew James and Lily Potter's wands, knew exactly what they were and what they'd been good for. That kind of memory, that kind of dedication, it's remarkable. the actual process of making a wand that's kept secret. Ollivander never reveals exactly how it's done, and presumably other wand makers are similarly protective of their techniques. But we know it involves careful selection of the wood, harvesting it at the right time, treating it in specific ways. The core has to be obtained, which in the case of phoenix feather might mean befriending a phoenix, or in the case of dragon heartstring might mean facing down a dragon, or buying the heartstring from someone who has. Then there's the process of combining wood and core, of binding them together with magic, of awakening the wand's potential. It takes skill, knowledge, intuition, and probably a fair bit of innate magical talent. Not just anyone can do it, which is why there are so few professional wand makers. Grigorovich, before he was murdered by Voldemort, he was probably the most famous wand maker on the continent. His approach was different from Ollivander's, less mystical perhaps, more focused on craftsmanship and technique. But he created excellent wands that were sought after across Europe. The fact that Voldemort specifically sought him out to learn about the Elder Wand shows that Grigorovich was respected, that his knowledge was considered authoritative. Now let's shift gears a little and talk about how magic actually works, because understanding wands is only half the picture. The other half is understanding spells, how they're cast, what makes them work or fail. At its most basic, spellcasting involves three elements: wand movement, incantation, and intent. You need all three for most spells, especially when you're learning. The wand movement is like the physical component, the choreography of magic. Different spells require different movements, and they're specific for a reason. The swish and flick for Wingardium Leviosa isn't arbitrary. It's part of what makes the spell work. It's directing the magic in a particular way, shaping it, focusing it. The incantation is the verbal component, the words that help channel and define the magic. Pronunciation matters enormously, as we learned from that first-year charms lesson. Get it wrong and the spell won't work, or worse, it'll work wrong. Ron ended up with a wand on his head instead of a feather in the air because he wasn't saying it right. The words themselves are usually Latin or derived from Latin, though there are exceptions. The language seems to help focus the caster's intent, to give it shape and direction. And intent, that's the mental component, the emotional and willful aspect. You have to mean it. You have to want the magic to happen, to believe it will happen, to push your will into the spell. This is why some spells are so difficult, because they require particular emotional states. The Patronus charm requires genuine happiness, a powerful happy memory, and the strength to hold on to that feeling, even in the presence of Dementors. The Cruciatus curse requires genuine sadistic pleasure in causing pain, a real desire to make someone suffer. You can't just say the words, you have to mean them, and that's a dark requirement indeed. As wizards become more advanced, they can start to drop some of these components. Non-verbal magic is taught in 6th year at Hogwarts, and it's exactly what it sounds like: casting spells without speaking the incantation aloud. This is harder because you have to hold the entire spell in your mind without the verbal component to help structure and channel it. But it has obvious advantages, particularly in combat. If your opponent doesn't hear you starting to cast, they can't predict what spell is coming, can't prepare a defense. Snape was a master of nonverbal magic, probably because of his double agent status. He needed to be able to cast quickly and secretly. Dumbledore barely ever spoke his spells aloud. Most of his magic was nonverbal, which is part of what made him so formidable. Wandless magic, now that's a whole other level of difficulty. Young children do it accidentally all the time before they get their wands, before they even know they're magical. Harry made the glass vanish at the zoo. He apparated onto the school roof when running from Dudley's gang. He made his hair grow back overnight when Aunt Petunia gave him that horrible haircut. All wandless, all accidental. But accidental magic is unfocused, uncontrolled, triggered by emotion rather than will. Trained wizards find it incredibly difficult to do wandless magic intentionally because they've been trained to channel their magic through a wand. The wand becomes a crutch in a way, something they rely on. There are exceptions. African magical schools, particularly Ouagadougou, they teach wandless magic as standard. Their students grow up learning to cast without wands, using hand gestures and focusing techniques instead. This gives them a different relationship with magic, more direct, more primal, perhaps. And there are certain wizards who can manage it even in the British tradition. Dumbledore could, certainly. There's that moment in Half-Blood Prince where he lights the lamps in his office with a casual gesture, no wand visible. Voldemort could fly without a broom or any visible magical aid, which is essentially wandless levitation applied to himself. But for most wizards, the wand is essential. Spells themselves are categorized in different ways, and honestly, the categories are a bit fuzzy at the edges. Charms are generally spells that add properties to something without changing its fundamental nature. You charm an object to be warm, or to repel water, or to stick to something. The object is still itself. It just has an additional quality now. Transfiguration changes the fundamental nature of something, turns one thing into another, an animal into a goblet, a desk into a pig, a person into a ferret, though that last one is technically against the law when done to a student, despite how funny it was when Moody, or rather Crouch Jr., pretending to be Moody, did it to Draco. Then you have jinxes, hexes, and curses, which are all forms of hostile or harmful magic, but with different levels of severity. Jinxes are minor, annoying, like the Jellylegs jinx or the stinging jinx. Hexes are more serious, causing actual harm, but not usually permanent damage, like the Bat Bogey hex or Densaugio, which makes teeth grow uncontrollably. Curses are the serious stuff, magic intended to cause lasting harm or death, like the unforgivable curses or other dark magic. Though even this classification is debatable, because some people use the terms interchangeably, and what's considered a hex versus a curse can depend on who's doing the categorizing. Some spells are harder than others for various reasons. The Patronus charm is hard because of its emotional requirement. You need to summon powerful happiness while facing creatures that literally suck all happiness out of the air around them. It's contradictory. It requires immense willpower and emotional control. Most adult wizards can't produce even an incorporeal Patronus, just a shapeless silver mist. A corporeal Patronus, one that takes the shape of an animal that's considered extremely advanced magic, the kind of thing only really skilled wizards can manage. Harry's ability to produce a corporeal Patronus at age 13 was exceptional, remarkable even, though he had good motivation, didn't he? Dementors had a particularly severe effect on him because of his traumatic past. Apparition is dangerous because of the precision required. You have to focus on your destination very clearly. You have to have the determination to reach it, and you have to move deliberately. The 3 Ds, as they're called. Get it wrong and you can splint yourself, leave part of yourself behind. half an eyebrow if you're lucky, or half your torso if you're not. Splinching can be fatal if it's severe enough. This is why apparition requires a license, why it's taught in a formal course to 6th years, why there are laws about it. It's powerful magic, useful magic, but dangerous if done carelessly. Human transfiguration is considered one of the most complex and dangerous branches of magic for similar reasons. You're fundamentally changing a person's form, their physical structure, and if you get it wrong, the consequences can be horrific. Partial transfigurations, permanent damage, psychological trauma from being stuck in an animal form. It takes years of study to even attempt, and even then, it's risky. Becoming an animagus is even more intense. That's not just transfiguring yourself once. That's creating a permanent second form, a form you can shift into and out of at will. The process takes years, literally years, and includes some fairly disgusting steps involving carrying a mandrake leaf in your mouth for a month and brewing a potion that has to sit through lightning storms. And if any step goes wrong, the results can be disastrous. You could end up stuck as an animal, or part animal and part human, or worse. There's something beautiful about the idea that wizards can invent new spells, though, isn't it? Magic isn't just a fixed set of known effects. It's a creative force, something that can be shaped and molded into new forms. Severus Snape invented several spells when he was still a student, which is absolutely remarkable. Levicorpus, the spell that dangles people upside down by their ankles, that was Snape's creation, and it became popular enough that other students were using it, teaching it to each other. It was almost a fad. And then there's Sectum Sempra, for enemies, as the Half-Blood Prince's textbook noted. That's a dark curse, one that slashes the target as if with invisible swords, causes deep bleeding wounds that are difficult to heal. Harry used it on Draco in 6th year without knowing what it did, and the results were nearly fatal. Only Snape's quick intervention, his knowledge of the counter curse because he'd invented the original curse, saved Draco's life. The fact that Snape could create spells as a teenager that speaks to his brilliance, his understanding of magic at a fundamental level. Creating a new spell isn't just a matter of thinking up an incantation and a wand movement. You have to understand how magic works, how to shape it into a new form, how to make that form stable and repeatable. It's like inventing a new word that actually changes language, or composing a new musical chord that somehow fits into music theory. It requires deep knowledge and creativity working together. Miranda Goshawk compiled and standardized a lot of spell knowledge in her textbooks, which are used at Hogwarts and other schools. The Standard Book of Spells series, those purple books that every student buys, they're hers. She didn't invent the spells, but she organized them, made them accessible, explained them clearly. That's valuable work too, preserving and teaching magical knowledge. Without people like her, every generation would have to relearn everything from scratch. Failed spells and backfires, oh, those can be spectacular and usually dangerous. Lockhart's attempt to fix Harry's broken arm in 2nd year resulted in removing all the bones from his arm instead, which is horrifying when you think about it. Poor Harry had to spend a night regrowing bones with Skele-Gro, which is apparently an excruciatingly painful process. Lockhart was a fraud, of course. His only real talent was memory charms, which he used to steal other wizards' achievements. But even his memory charm specialty backfired spectacularly when he tried to use Ron's broken wand. The spell rebounded, hit him instead and wiped his memory so thoroughly that he spent the rest of his life in St. Mungo's, barely remembering his own name. Ron's slug-vomiting hex, the one he tried to use on Malfoy in second year, that backfired because of his broken wand, and he spent hours vomiting up slugs instead, which is gross and also fairly miserable. Peter Pettigrew's blasting curse that he used to fake his death, that was deliberately aimed at the street to cause maximum chaos, and it worked, killed 12 muggles and left a crater in the street. That was successful dark magic, unfortunately, used to devastating effect. But the point is, spell work requires practice, requires a good wand, requires focus and knowledge. Screw it up, and you might hurt yourself or others, or cause some kind of magical disaster. This naturally leads us into combat magic, which is a whole specialty unto itself. Magical dueling, when done formally, has rules and etiquette. You bow to your opponent, you acknowledge them as a worthy adversary, and then you try to blast each other into submission or surrender. There's a professional dueling circuit, apparently, with leagues and tournaments, though we don't see much of it in the books. The closest we get is the Tri-Wizard tournament, which isn't exactly dueling, but involves plenty of combat magic. The fundamentals of magical combat are similar to physical combat in some ways. Stance matters. You need to be balanced, ready to move. Reading your opponent is crucial. Watching their wand movement, their body language, predicting what spell they might cast next. Speed versus power is always a trade-off. Do you fire off quick spells that are easier to dodge but come in rapid succession? Or do you take time to cast something powerful that will end the fight if it lands? And there's Moody's constant advice, constant vigilance. Stay alert, stay aware, never relax, never assume you're safe. Good advice for combat, though exhausting as a life philosophy. Offensive spells in combat range from the relatively benign to the outright lethal. Stupefy, the stunning spell. That's the workhorse of magical combat. It knocks your opponent unconscious if it hits, takes them out of the fight without killing or seriously harming them. It's what Order members use against Death Eaters when they can. It's what's taught in defense against the dark arts. It's the go-to combat spell for law enforcement. Harry used it constantly, stunned dozens of Death Eaters throughout the series. Expelliarmus, the disarming charm, that became Harry's signature spell, much to everyone's concern, actually. It's a defensive spell, really, meant to disarm an opponent by knocking their wand out of their hand, but Harry used it in situations where more aggressive spells might have been more appropriate. Lupin called him out on this, pointed out that Expelliarmus is too recognizable as Harry's favorite, that Death Eaters would be able to identify him by it. But Harry kept using it anyway because it fit his character, his reluctance to seriously harm others, his preference for disabling rather than destroying. And in the end, it was the right choice, because Expelliarmus was the spell he used in his final confrontation with Voldemort, and its connection to wand allegiance, the fact that he'd won Draco's wand through disarming, that was part of what saved him. Then you've got the more aggressive options. Petrificus Totalis, the full body bind, locks your opponent's entire body rigid. They fall over like a board. Hermione used this on Neville in first year. Poor Neville, always getting the worst of things in those early books. Cutting curses like Diffindo, which can slice through things, or Sectum Sempra, which is much darker and more dangerous. Blasting hexes like Confringo, which causes explosions, or Bombarda, which blasts solid objects apart. the knockback jinx, flipendo, which sends people flying backward. All useful in combat, all potentially dangerous depending on how they're used. Defensive magic is just as important as offensive, maybe more so. The shield charm, Protego, that's fundamental. It creates an invisible magical barrier that deflects spells and physical objects. A well-cast Protego can bounce a spell back at the caster, or deflect it harmlessly away. Mastering Protego is essential for anyone who expects to see combat. There are variations too. Protego Maxima for larger area protection, Protego Totalum for perimeter defense, Salvio Hexia specifically for deflecting hexes. Dumbledore could conjure physical shields, like when he created that golden shield to protect Harry from Voldemort's killing curse in the Ministry. That's incredibly advanced magic, transforming defensive magic into actual physical matter. Dueling etiquette, when followed, makes magical combat almost civilized. The formal bow, the acknowledgement of your opponent, it's about respect, about recognizing that you're both putting yourselves at risk. The dueling club, that Lockhart, started in second year was a disaster because Lockhart was a fraud, but the idea was sound. Teaching students how to duel properly, safely, under controlled conditions. The demonstration between Snape and Lockhart was probably the most useful thing Lockhart ever contributed, because Snape actually knew what he was doing and demonstrated proper technique, even if he did take the opportunity to blast Lockhart across the room with a bit more force than strictly necessary. Advanced combat techniques separate competent duelists from masters. Spell chains, where you cast multiple spells in rapid succession without pause, keeping your opponent constantly on the defensive. Deflection versus blocking, where deflection redirects a spell rather than stopping it entirely, which uses less energy and can turn an opponent's magic back against them. Counter curses cast mid-duel, where you're not just defending against incoming spells, but actively unraveling them with specific counters. Using the environment, like when Dumbledore animated the statues in the Ministry atrium to shield Harry and attack Voldemort. Or apparition dodging, disappearing just as a spell reaches you, and reappearing somewhere else to attack from a different angle, though that requires split-second timing and incredible focus. Different fighters have different styles, and this is where personality really comes through. Dumbledore fought with almost casual elegance, conjuring elements like fire and water, transfiguring objects into animate defenders, moving with calm precision. He never seemed rushed or worried, even facing Voldemort. That confidence, that serenity, it was part of what made him so formidable. Voldemort, in contrast, fought with overwhelming raw power, blasting through defenses, attacking with crushing force. He was anger and hatred given form. His magic was destruction. Snape was all about defense and precision, minimal movement, maximum efficiency. He could deflect spells with tiny wand movements, cast counters without seeming to try. Harry's style was interesting because it was largely instinctive. He didn't have years of training. He had natural talent and quick reflexes and good instincts. He dodged more than he blocked. He trusted his gut. He adapted on the fly. It wasn't elegant or technically perfect, but it kept him alive through situations that should have killed him. Bellatrix Lestrange fought with wild, chaotic aggression, laughing and taunting while throwing curses. She was dangerous precisely because she was unpredictable, because she enjoyed the chaos. And McGonagall, when she finally got to cut loose, fought with precise, devastating efficiency. Every spell had a purpose. Every movement was economical. That's decades of skill and knowledge applied with Scottish practicality. Group combat adds another layer of complexity. The battle at the Department of Mysteries in 5th year, that was chaotic. Spells flying everywhere, allies and enemies mixed together, fighting in a space full of fragile prophecy spheres. Communication and coordination become crucial. The Battle of Hogwarts was even more intense, with hundreds of people fighting. Giants and spiders and Death Eaters and students and teachers all mixed together. Knowing where your allies are, not hitting them with friendly fire, working together to bring down tougher opponents, all while staying alive yourself, it's incredibly difficult. The Order of the Phoenix had training and experience that helped, but even they took heavy casualties in both wars. We should talk about the dark arts now, because understanding combat magic naturally leads into understanding what makes magic dark. It's not always obvious what crosses the line, actually. Intent matters, certainly. A spell used to defend yourself or protect others, even if it causes harm, that's different from a spell used to torture someone for fun. But some magic is considered inherently dark because it damages the caster's soul, because using it changes you, makes you less human. The unforgivable curses are called that because they're unforgivable. There's no legitimate use for them, no acceptable reason to cast them, and using any of them on a human being carries a life sentence in Azkaban. The Killing Curse, Avada Kedavra, it's the ultimate expression of murder. One spell, instant death, leaves no mark, no trace, nothing. The victim just dies. There's no known counter curse, no way to block it except with a physical barrier or someone sacrificing themselves for you. That's what Lily did for Harry, and her sacrifice created a protection so powerful that Voldemort's killing curse rebounded. The curse itself requires immense magical power and genuine murderous intent. As Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Moody, told the class, "You could all point your wands at me and say the words, and I doubt I'd get so much as a nosebleed. You have to mean it, you have to want to kill, and most people don't have that in them, thankfully." The Cruciatus Curse, Crucio, that's torture, pure and simple. It causes such intense pain that victims have been driven insane from prolonged exposure. Neville's parents, Frank and Alice Longbottom, were tortured into madness by Bellatrix Lestrange and other Death Eaters. They've spent Harry's entire life in St. Mungo's, unable to recognize their own son, unable to remember who they are. That's what Crucio can do. And like the Killing Curse, it requires genuine feeling behind it. You have to enjoy causing pain. You have to want to make someone suffer. When Harry tried to use it on Bellatrix after she killed Sirius, it barely affected her because his heart wasn't truly in it. He was angry, grieving, wanting revenge, but he didn't have the sadistic pleasure in causing pain that the curse requires. Bellatrix told him as much, taunted him about needing to really mean it. The Imperious Curse, Imperio, that's mind control. Total, complete domination of another person's will. You become a puppet, doing whatever the caster commands, and you're aware of it happening, but unable to resist. After Voldemort's first fall, dozens of Death Eaters claimed they'd been under the Imperious Curse, that they hadn't willingly served him. Some were probably telling the truth, some were definitely lying. It became known as the Imperious Defense, a convenient excuse. The curse can be fought off with sufficient strength of will. Harry managed it in 4th year when Crouch Jr. was teaching them about unforgivables, but it's incredibly difficult. Most people can't do it. Beyond the unforgivables, there's other dark magic. Horcrux creation, oh, that's the darkest of all, darker even than the killing curse, in a way. Splitting your soul by committing murder, and then binding the fragment into an object to achieve immortality. The process is so heinous that Rowling has never fully described it. She said it's too dark, too disturbing. Voldemort made 6 Horcruxes, split his soul 7 ways, and in doing so became something less than human, something monstrous. You can see it in his appearance, the snake-like features, the red eyes, the flat nose. That's what dark magic does when taken to extremes. It corrupts and transforms. Fiendfire is cursed fire that takes the shape of animals and burns almost anything, even Horcruxes. It's incredibly difficult to control, and if it gets away from you, it can destroy everything in its path, even kill you. Crabbe tried to use it in the Room of Requirement in 7th year and couldn't control it. It killed him and nearly killed everyone else too. That's dark magic, powerful but dangerous to the caster themselves. Sectum Sempra, Snape's curse, that's clearly dark, designed to cause serious harm. The fact that Snape invented a counter curse for it suggests maybe he regretted creating it, or at least recognized it was dangerous. Creating Inferi, reanimating corpses to serve you, that's dark magic too. Voldemort surrounded his Horcrux in the cave with Inferi, an army of dead bodies in the lake, waiting to drag anyone who disturbed the water down to their death. The idea is horrifying, desecrating the dead, using them as tools. Blood magic and magical oaths like the Unbreakable Vow, those occupy a gray area. They're not necessarily dark, but they use deep, old magic that comes with serious consequences. Studying the dark arts is necessary, though, and this is one of the more interesting ethical questions in the series. How do you defend against dark magic if you don't understand it? How do you recognize cursed objects if you've never learned about them? This is what defense against the dark arts is supposed to teach. Lupin had the best approach in 3rd year, practical defense against actual dark creatures, hands-on learning. Barty Crouch Jr., pretending to be moody in 4th year, had a controversial approach, actually casting the unforgivable curses in class so students could see what they did. It was against ministry, guidelines probably traumatic for some students, but arguably effective. They knew what they were facing. Snape, in his year as defense teacher, focused more on the theoretical side, on recognizing dark magic and knowing counter curses. Different approaches, but all trying to solve the same problem of how to prepare students for the reality of dark magic without corrupting them. Protective magic is the opposite end of the spectrum, magic designed to defend and preserve life. And some of the most powerful protective magic in the series comes from love and sacrifice. Lily's protection on Harry, that's ancient magic, the kind that's almost forgotten because it requires such a specific circumstance. A mother sacrificing herself for her child, given the choice to live but choosing death to save them. And because of that willing sacrifice, her love leaves a magical protection on the child that survives her. Voldemort's killing curse couldn't destroy Harry because of that protection. It rebounded, destroyed Voldemort's body instead, left Harry with nothing but a scar. The blood wards Dumbledore placed on Privet Drive worked because of that same protection. As long as Harry called the place where his blood relative lived home, even if he hated it there, he was protected. Voldemort couldn't touch him, couldn't find him, couldn't harm him there. The protection lasted until Harry came of age at 17, or until he no longer called it home, whichever came first. It's incredibly powerful magic, but it came at a cost. Harry had to spend his summers with the Dursleys, people who despised him, who treated him terribly, who made him sleep in a cupboard for 10 years. Dumbledore knew this, and he placed Harry there anyway because the magical protection was worth it. That's a morally complex decision, and the series doesn't shy away from examining it. The Fidelius charm, now that's a different kind of protection, incredibly complex and powerful in its own way. You take a secret, could be anything, the location of a house, or a person, or an object, and you hide it inside a living person's soul. That person becomes the secret keeper, and only they can reveal the secret. Even someone standing outside the protected location can't see it or find it unless the secret keeper tells them where it is. It's nearly unbreakable, except for the obvious weakness that if the secret keeper betrays the secret, the protection fails. That's what happened to James and Lily. They made Peter Pettigrew their secret keeper, trusting him as a friend, and he betrayed them to Voldemort. Sirius Black had been the obvious choice, their best friend, but they did a switch at the last moment, thinking no one would suspect Peter. It was clever, except Peter was already a Death Eater, already a traitor. Grimmauld Place was protected by the Fidelius charm with Dumbledore as secret keeper, which made it the perfect headquarters for the Order. Even with Death Eaters searching all of London, they couldn't find it. After Dumbledore died, the secret passed to everyone he'd told, which made the protection weaker because now there were multiple people who could potentially reveal it. Magic has rules, and even the most powerful protections have limitations and loopholes. Hogwarts itself is probably the most heavily protected location in magical Britain, maybe in the world. There are so many enchantments and wards layered on that castle over the centuries that it's basically a fortress. Anti-apparition jinxes mean you can't just apparate in or out. You have to walk through the gates or use specific entry points. Muggle-repelling charms mean muggles who get near just remember urgent appointments elsewhere and hurry away. The castle has its own defensive magic, separate from the wards, magic that can be activated by the headmaster or in emergencies. McGonagall brings the statues to life during the Battle of Hogwarts, and she's clearly thrilled to finally get to use that spell. The castle protects its students, sometimes literally, like the moving staircases that might reroute you away from danger. Protective enchantments come in many forms. The Protean charm, which Hermione used on the Dumbledore's army coins, links objects together so that changes to one are reflected in all the others. That's NEWT level magic, and Hermione did it in 5th year, because of course she did. The homunculus charm is what made the Marauders map work, showing the location of every person in Hogwarts in real time. Age lines, like the one Dumbledore put around the Goblet of Fire, prevent anyone under a certain age from crossing. Though Fred and George's attempt to fool it with an aging potion was amusing, even if it only got them white beards for their trouble. Caterwauling charms are magical alarms that alert you when someone enters a protected area. Intruder detection enchantments can be layered throughout a building or area, creating a comprehensive security system. Making a location. Unplottable means it can't be shown on maps. Hogwarts is unplottable, as is Grimmauld Place, Shell Cottage, and various other protected locations. It's another layer of protection, making it harder for enemies to find you. All these protections can be overcome, though. There's no such thing as perfect security. Voldemort found ways around Hogwarts' defenses, the vanishing cabinet exploit, where Draco repaired one cabinet inside Hogwarts and connected it to one in Borgin and Berks, creating a passage that bypassed all the wards. Clever, dark, but clever. Let's talk about some of the legendary spells, the magic that's rare and difficult, that marks a wizard as truly exceptional. The Patronus charm, Expecto Patronum. This is one of the most beautiful and powerful defensive spells in existence. It conjures a guardian, a shield of pure positive energy that takes the form of an animal. The animal form, your Patronus, is unique to you, connected to your personality and inner self in ways that are sometimes surprising. Hermione's is an otter, playful and intelligent. Ron's is a Jack Russell Terrier, loyal and tenacious. Ginny's is a horse, representing freedom and spirit. McGonagall's is a cat, naturally, given her animagus form. Dumbledore's was a phoenix, the only known case of a Patronus matching a magical creature. Most wizards can't produce a corporeal Patronus. Most can't produce any Patronus at all. It's genuinely difficult magic, requiring you to focus on powerful happiness while potentially facing Dementors, which drain all happiness from the area around them. It's contradictory, fighting despair with joy. Harry's Patronus is a stag, the same form his father's animagus took, which is incredibly poignant. When he sees the Patronus across the lake in third year and thinks it's his father come back somehow, it's one of the most emotional moments in the series. The realization that it was himself all along, that he saved his own life through time travel paradox. That's profound. Patronuses can change, though it's rare. Tonks's Patronus changed from an unspecified form to a wolf after she fell in love with Lupin, a werewolf. It reflected her changed emotional landscape, her grief and longing while he kept pushing her away. When a Patronus changes, it's usually because of deep emotional trauma or transformation. They can also be used as messengers, sending incorporeal messages, which is how the Order communicated securely. Your Patronus can only be recognized by people who've seen it before, so it's like a magical signature. Priori incantatum, the effect when brother wands duel, that's rare because brother wands are rare. Only a handful of wands in the world share cores from the same creature. Harry and Voldemort's wands both contained feathers from Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix. When they dueled in the graveyard in fourth year, their wands connected, created a golden thread between them, and forced them into priori incantatem. The wands fought for dominance, and when Harry's won out, Voldemort's wand began regurgitating echoes of the spells it had recently cast. The last ones first, in reverse order. The most recent being Cedric Diggory's murder, then Frank Bryce, then Bertha Jorkins, and going back and back until finally, James and Lily Potter appeared as echo spirits. They couldn't truly return, weren't really alive, but they were there enough to speak to Harry, to encourage him, to help him escape. It's heartbreaking and beautiful, and it saved his life. Complex transfiguration, that's a whole field of incredibly difficult magic. Human transfiguration is considered the most dangerous branch because you're changing a person's fundamental form, and mistakes can be catastrophic. The animagus transformation is even more specific and difficult. You're not just transfiguring yourself temporarily, you're creating a second permanent form that reflects your inner nature. The animal form you become isn't chosen, it's determined by your personality and character. James Potter was a stag, majestic and protective. Sirius Black was a large dog, loyal and wild. Peter Pettigrew was a rat, which in hindsight seems obvious. Rita Skeeter was in Beetle, small and intrusive, perfect for spying. The process to become an animagus takes years and involves carrying a mandrake leaf in your mouth for an entire month without swallowing it or taking it out even once. Then a complicated potion that has to be kept in a quiet, dark place and exposed to lightning storms. Then waiting for an electrical storm while constantly having your wand pointed at your heart and reciting an incantation. If anything goes wrong at any stage, the consequences range from mild to horrific. You might end up permanently stuck in animal form, or with a half-transformed body, or with some other magical malady. And even if it all works, you're required by law to register with the ministry, giving details of your appearance and markings so they can identify you. James, Sirius, and Peter never registered, of course, becoming illegal animagi to help Lupin during full moons. Rita Skeeter didn't register either, using her beetle form to spy and eavesdrop for her articles. Ancient magic, the kind from the Founders' era or before, some of that's been lost. Spells that modern wizards can't replicate because the knowledge died with their creators or because magic itself has changed in subtle ways over centuries. The Room of Requirement is one example, a space that can become whatever the user needs, that responds to desire and intention in ways that seem almost sentient. That's ancient magic built into Hogwarts itself, probably by the Founders, and no one knows exactly how it works. Similarly, the Sorting Hat was enchanted by all 4 Founders working together, given the ability to read minds and judge character, to sing songs and make decisions. That's magic that modern wizards couldn't recreate if they tried. Love magic is rare because it requires such specific circumstances. You can't create it artificially, can't fake it or force it. It has to be genuine, selfless, willing sacrifice out of pure love. Lily's protection on Harry is the most powerful example, but there are others. Harry's willing march into the forest to let Voldemort kill him, that was the same magic, the same sacrificial protection. His death, or what should have been his death, cast protection on everyone at Hogwarts. That's why Voldemort's spells didn't work right after Harry's sacrifice, why Neville could throw off the bodybind curse, why the battle turned. Amortentia, the love potion, isn't real love magic. It creates obsession and infatuation, but not love, never love. Real love can't be bottled or forced. The unbreakable vow is old magic, a binding oath that enforces itself through death. If you make an unbreakable vow and break it, you die. Simple, absolute, irreversible. Snape made one to protect Draco and to complete Draco's task if Draco couldn't, and he kept it, killed Dumbledore to keep it, though that was part of Dumbledore's plan all along. The vow requires a bonder, a third person to seal the oath, and the magic is visible, threads of fire wrapping around the joined hands. It's rarely used because of the absolute nature of the consequences. Most magical oaths and contracts have loopholes or penalties short of death, but the unbreakable vow doesn't mess around. Apparition is common among adult wizards, but still requires mastery. The 3 Ds, destination, determination, deliberation. You have to know exactly where you're going, have to be absolutely determined to get there, and have to move with deliberation rather than panic. Half-hearted apparition leads to splinching. Side-along apparition, taking someone with you, is even harder because you're responsible for both of you. House elves have their own form of apparition that works differently. isn't blocked by anti-apparition wards, which made Dobby incredibly valuable in getting people in and out of Malfoy Manor. Their magic is different from wizard magic, older perhaps, more primal, not limited by wizard laws and wards. The greatest magical battles in the series showcase all of this knowledge and skill and power coming together. Dumbledore versus Voldemort in the Ministry Atrium in 5th year. That's one of the most spectacular duels ever described. Dumbledore arrives just as Voldemort is about to kill Harry, and immediately he's conjuring animated statues to defend, wrapping Voldemort in ropes, turning the fountain into weapons and shields. Voldemort responds with overwhelming force, blasting apart the statues, turning the water of the fountain into a serpent that wraps around Dumbledore. So Dumbledore turns into a whirlwind of fire that forces the water back. They're throwing magic at each other that most wizards couldn't dream of: elemental forces, advanced transfiguration, attacks and defenses happening simultaneously. And Dumbledore is calm throughout, almost gentle, while Voldemort is snarling with rage. When Voldemort tries to possess Harry, using that connection between them to take over his body and force Dumbledore to kill him, Harry defeats him not with magic, but with love. The overwhelming grief and love Harry feels for Sirius, who just died, it burns Voldemort out of his mind. Voldemort can't stand it, can't comprehend it, flees rather than endure it. That's the power of emotion in magic. Emotional states matter, shape what's possible. The Battle of Hogwarts is chaos and tragedy and heroism all mixed together. Hundreds of people fighting, students and teachers and Order members and Voldemort's Death Eaters and giants and acromantulas and even house elves led by Kreacher in the end. McGonagall duels Snape before Snape flees, and she holds back because she doesn't realize yet that Snape's on their side. But Snape holds back too, deliberately deflecting her spells into the Carrows behind him, disarming them, while defending against McGonagall. That's skill, fighting a duel on 2 levels at once. Molly Weasley dueling Bellatrix after Bellatrix nearly kills Ginny. Molly overcome with maternal fury, not letting anyone else help, finally landing the killing curse that stops Bellatrix's heart. That's a mother's love turned to protective violence. Harry's final confrontation with Voldemort, it all comes down to wand allegiance and the choices they each made. Harry explains it all, gives Voldemort one chance to feel remorse, to try to repair his soul, even though it would likely destroy him. Voldemort refuses, casts Avada Kedavra one last time. Harry uses Expelliarmus, his signature spell, the disarming charm. And the Elder Wand, which never belonged to Voldemort, which was loyal to Harry because Harry disarmed Draco, who disarmed Dumbledore, it refuses to kill its master. The killing curse rebounds, strikes Voldemort instead, and he's gone. Falls dead, just a mortal body after all. The Elder Wand flies through the air to Harry's hand, answering its true master. So Harry won by understanding wands, by earning rather than taking the Elder Wand's loyalty, by choosing to disarm rather than kill. Voldemort lost because his understanding of wands was incomplete, because he valued power over wisdom, because he never understood love or loyalty or sacrifice. The entire story, in a sense, comes down to wand lore, to the relationship between wizard and wand, to the choices we make and how they shape our magic. And that's beautiful. Really, that's why this magic system is so compelling, why I can talk about it for hours and still find new depths to explore. The historical duels, like Dumbledore versus Grindelwald in 1945, those are legendary, but we know fewer details. That duel ended Grindelwald's reign of terror, the dark wizard who nearly conquered Europe, who possessed the Elder Wand. Dumbledore defeated him despite Grindelwald having the most powerful wand in existence. That speaks to Dumbledore's skill, his power, or perhaps Grindelwald's reluctance to truly fight the man he'd once loved. The Elder Wand's allegiance might have been shaky, might have wavered because Grindelwald's heart wasn't fully in the fight. We'll never know for sure. What we do know is that magical warfare, magical combat, it's not just about powerful spells or rare wands. It's about strategy, about using your environment, about teamwork when necessary, and knowing when to fight alone. It's about understanding your own strengths and your opponent's weaknesses. And sometimes it's about knowing when to flee, when to survive rather than win. Moody's advice about constant vigilance, that's not just paranoia, it's practical wisdom for living in a world where danger can come from anywhere, where a seemingly innocent object might be cursed, or a trusted friend might be under Imperius, or replaced by Polyjuice. So, here we are, having explored wands from their creation to their allegiances, from the basic mechanics of spellcasting to the most advanced combat magic, from the darkest curses to the most powerful protections. We've seen how it all connects, how the wand chooses the wizard, but the wizard's choices shape their magic, how love and sacrifice create protections that dark magic can never overcome, how understanding wand lore can mean the difference between life and death. The magical world is deep and complex, full of beauty and danger in equal measure. And that's what makes it so captivating, so worth exploring, so perfect for nights like this when we want to escape into a world of wonder and possibility. Sleep well, dear friends, and may your dreams be filled with magic, sweet dreams, and mischief managed.